We kindle the symbol of our community of faith with the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment.
Good morning, I'm LB, your Director of Music and Worship Arts. I use the pronouns he, him, and his. And this morning, we will begin by singing about diversity and community and beauty, all of which is represented here and here. You can sing, you can dance, which I personally would love to see, or you can participate in other ways that work better for you. It's your choice. Mine is the church where everybody's welcome. I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the vase, 'cause we got space for more. Come here, all you 6-foot gladiolas. Come, all you purple lilac shining bright. Come, let us all bloom together in one garden. A carnival of fragrance and delight. Mine is the church where everybody's welcome. I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the vase, 'cause we got space for more. We don't simply tolerate each other. We ask and tell, we don't just turn away. We give attention to every bud and blossom. Let every face come grace the grand bouquet. Mine is the church where everybody's welcome. I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the vase, 'cause we got space for more. Our demons keep trying to divide us. They document the lies to make them true. Today we're freed from our judging and excluding. Just look around, enjoy the love with you. Mine is the church where everybody's welcome. I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the vase, 'cause we got space. Jump in the vase, 'cause we got space. Jump in the vase, 'cause we got space for more. Especially right over on this side.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greater Lansing. My name is still Reverend Neal Anderson, and I still serve as the senior minister here, and I still use the pronouns he, him, and his. What a delight it is to be together on this beautiful June morning as we celebrate flower communion together. Our dazzling bouquet is getting more diverse by the moment. Thank you for your addition, Anna. And when we greet one another, if you have a flower that you'd like to bring up this morning, you may do so at that particular point in time. As a religious community, we strive to put love at the center of all that we do. With that in mind, I wanted to wish everybody a happy Pride Month as well. We talk about the importance of our values, one of which is interdependence, for that we honor that interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life and with humility. We acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. And we strive to create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We strive to work to repair harm and damaged relationships as we work towards our value of interdependence. One of the practices of interdependence that we engage in at UU Lansing is hosting many community groups. One of those community groups is the Gay Choir. They rehearse here on Tuesday evenings. Yes, right, they rehearse here Tuesday evenings, so when I come on Tuesday evenings, the parking lot is full of choir participants, and their concerts were here this weekend, and as part of that, Lansing Out gave you all an award for your work. It is the 2024-25 Service Award to all of you, the UU Church of Greater Lansing. So congratulations for your service to Lansing Out, Lansing's Gay Chorus. Wanted to let you know about that. Also, if you are around here at noon today, I'll be in the sanctuary, and I'd be happy to tell you about some of the progress on our renovations, as well as the plans that are moving forward for my sabbatical, which will begin on August 1st and go through January 31st. We'll have some pamphlets available for you to take a look at about sabbatical and the plans of the sabbatical team for the time that I will not be here. That's at noon today. Of course, you can always stay and drink coffee together and engage in fellowship. Let's engage in fellowship by welcoming all of you who join us via live stream this morning. We're glad to have you with us. And now I'd invite all of you who are in the sanctuary together this morning to take a few moments to greet one another. Let each other know what a blessing it is to be together in community. As we celebrate Flower Communion this morning, I thought I would tell you the story of Flower Communion. In the city of Prague, in the land of Czechoslovakia, in the year 1923, there was a church. But the building did not look much like what some of us imagine to be a church. It had no bells, no spires, no stained glass windows, had no organ, didn't even have a piano, had no carvings of wood or statues of stone, no candles or chalices, didn't even have any flowers. The church did have some things, though. It had 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor. It had doors and a few windows, and it had some wooden chairs. But that was all, plain and simple. Except the church also had people who came to it every Sunday. It had a minister, and his name was Norbert Chopik. He had been the minister at the plain and simple church for 2 years. Every Sunday, Minister Chopik went to church, and he spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quietly and still in those hard wooden chairs. When he was done speaking, the people talked and a little bit among themselves, and then they went home. And that was it. No music, no candles, no food, not even any coffee and donuts. I was thinking, Cruz, it would be great if we could see what Norbert and his wife Maya looked like. Thank you, Cruz. That was very helpful. Springtime came to the city of Prague, and Norbert Chopik went out for a stroll. The rains had come, the birds were singing, and flowers were blooming all over the land. The world was beautiful. And then an idea came to Norbert, simple and clear, plain as day. The next Sunday, he asked all the people in the church to bring a flower or a budding branch or even a simple twig. Each person was just to bring one. What kind, they asked. What color, what size? You choose, he said. Each of you choose what you like. And so on the next Sunday, which was the first day of summer, the people came with flowers of all different colors and sizes and kinds. There were yellow daisies, there were red roses, there were yellow roses, there may have been peonies, I don't know. There were white flowers and blue flowers, light green leaves, pink, purple, orange, gold, all those colors and more. Flowers filled is it vases or vases? Vases. Vases, thank you. I'm like, it's both and. Fantastic. Both and. All right. Well, anyways, those containers that hold flowers, those ones, they were all full. Yeah. And Minister Chopik spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quiet and still in those hard wooden chairs. He said, these flowers are like ourselves, different colors and different shapes and different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but each beautiful, each important, and special in its own way. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they each chose a different flower from the vases before they went home. And that was all. It was a beautiful, plain, and simple day. And just to tell you a little bit more about Reverend Chopik and Czechoslovakia at the time of his ministry, the Flower Communion started in 1923, but it carried on, and they were still celebrating it in the 30s and even into the 1940s. But in 1938, you may recall that the German government, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, was demanding that the Czech government cede the land of southern Czechoslovakia to Germany. When the Czech government felt it had no choice but to accept the terms of the German government, the protests by the Czech populace were fierce. And Čapek was with the protesters. Preaching the following Sunday, September 25th of 1938, he declared, "We Czechs are becoming the backbone of the history of humanity. We are today the only nation in the whole of Europe that is ready to resist oppression. Confronting our descendants, we will never have to feel ashamed of the fact that as a small nation in the middle of Europe, we were ready to defend human dignity, freedom, and justice from violence, lies, and lawlessness." Did he really imagine that his community and its flower communion as a match for fascism? Čapek now found himself ministering to a congregation, really a national community that felt abandoned by the world, but was united within itself. The congregation in Prague flourished, with many in attendance to hear Reverend Čapek every week. And during that time, that congregation would always include members of the Gestapo, there to monitor the speech of the minister. In 1940, Čapek would receive a gift from the congregation of a shortwave radio. Shortwave radios at the time came with a warning that listening to foreign broadcasters was a crime punishable by death. Well, Reverend Čapek listened daily to the BBC and Voice of America and reported what he heard to the congregation. In 1941, both he and his 28-year-old daughter Zora were charged with listening to foreign broadcasts. Despite Norbert being sentenced to 12 months in prison and 11 months of those 12 being suspended, the case officer for Čapek wrote on his file, "Send this prisoner to Dachau. His return is unwished." Indeed, he would not return and was killed by poison gas in 1942. And I tell you this story of Reverend Norbert Čapek on this morning, when fascism is too much afoot right here. 2,000 National Guard have been ordered to quell resistance to indiscriminate immigration raids meant to terrify local residents in Los Angeles. The Secretary of so-called Defense has threatened to deploy active duty Marines against U.S. citizens. We are continuing to witness to the ramping up of rhetoric that demonizes the humanity of others. There is no telling how perilous the politics of our near future will be, except for this telling: too perilous. There is no telling how damaged the planet's system will be before we wake up, except for this telling: too damaged. Theologian David Weiss writes on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the Flower Communion, "The Flower Communion is such a simple ritual, almost cute, but so much more. Unfazed by peril, undaunted before damage, an unassuming ritual bearing beauty and truth, we are priceless glory, uniquely needy, uniquely gifted. We belong to each other. Creating community is birthing joy. In a perilous and damaged future, these truths may seem no stronger than a spring lilac, but I tell you, they are a priceless treasure."
It's a lot to think about. And it brings to mind a quote by Leonard Bernstein, which I don't have memorized, but I'm going to paraphrase. "Let this be our response to beauty, to violence, to make beauty." So as the students and their volunteers go to the next activity, let's sing and sing with joy against the violence that's happening. You shall go out with joy, led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will break
am Kelsea Hector, your worship associate today. My pronouns are she, they. So when I was 2 or 3, freedom looked like tiny feet storming across a patch of grass, arms crossed, on a mission. Anytime I got in a fight with my mom, and there were plenty, I would storm out of our tiny apartment and make my way to my aunt's place that sat just behind ours. I wouldn't say anything. I'd walk in, climb up on her couch, arms crossed, and sit there, silently stewing. She'd smile gently and chuckle as she asked me if I fought with my mother again. I'd just sit on her couch, arms still crossed, and wait until I was calm or someone came to collect me. Looking back, maybe that was one of the first times I ever practiced freedom. Not in the grand rebellion, but in choosing where to go and how to feel. Even at that age, I knew when I needed space, and I could find it if I just knew where to look. Years later, I would find freedom again. This time surrounded by my queer little friend group from Eaton Rapids. Every year we'd carpool to Michigan Pride, which is now Lansing Pride, laughing, dressing how we wanted, blasting music on the way there. We'd walk in the parade, bold, loud, and definitely glittered. Then dancing with strangers who felt like family. We'd linger with the vendors, watch the shows, and take part in the communal wedding ceremony, marrying each other again and again every single year, long before marriage equality existed. That night, we'd head to Spiral and straight to the dance floor because that was sacred to us. This place where we felt fully seen, fully free, and then we'd go home and tuck parts of ourselves away, that kind of freedom that's fleeting, fragile, but it's real and it stays with you. It shaped how we move, how we hope, and how we gathered. Each one of us carries our own version and stories of freedom that show us where we have been and those unwritten ones that show us who we are becoming. And maybe once freedom may have looked like risk, like riding the edge of survival with nothing to lose, like letting love and laughter lead, like breaking rules just to feel real, that really wild teenage freedom. It did not protect us from consequences, but it did teach us the holy art of living on our own terms, even if it was just for a little while. Today, freedom might look different. Maybe it's a steady breath, a safe place to land, or a truth spoken aloud without fear. Maybe it's the audacity to bloom right here, right now, just as we are. This morning, we bring our flowers, each one a symbol of our uniqueness, of our beauty, struggle, and grace. Together, they form a bouquet of community. We are diverse, imperfect, and sacred. In this sanctuary of belonging, we remember that true liberation never comes at the cost of another, and that shared joy is an act of resistance. Welcome to this flower communion. Now let us worship together.
I'm curious, do any of you have, like your spot, that spot that you go back to over and over again? Throughout the seasons, you notice at your spot, hidden from the rest of humanity, the evolution of that space. Springtime to summer, fall to winter, the changing of your spot. The place where maybe you can regulate your heart rate. You can just relax into the moment. those spots, those sit spots, where those of us who find still and silent meditation anxiety-provoking, those places where we can find that meditative moment with a little bit of movement and the birds singing around if they're there, and maybe at some point the tadpoles croaking, all of that. I had a sit spot when I was younger. It was a glacial erratic. This large stone in the middle of a coulee that's, some glacier dropped there 10,000 years ago. And at that time, there was a track worn around it where the cows would have rubbed up against that glacial erratic because it was a lovely rubbing stone as well. Had a lot of lichen on it. I think that's why I was liking it. But lichen it's a tough organism that if you rub up against. And I imagined while I was in that sit spot looking at that glacial erratic about 2 miles from my house, I could get there on my dirt bike. I could see the seasons change, but that glacial erratic was just like permanent. It seemed like it would always be there, and I imagined at some point before that the bison would rub against that stone. There were teepee rings just on the top of the coulee. I imagined the people that were there before me may have come because that glacial erratic was there for the bison. It was a touchstone for me in my childhood, a place that I went back to over and over again. Maybe you all have spots like that. And if you don't, maybe you'll find one. And that will be a blessing. But today, I'm going to invite you to consider the touchstones in your lives, the joys and sorrows, and if you wish, to mark that by dropping a stone in the columns of water on either side of the sanctuary. Come forward and take one or more and engage in this touchstone ritual together. Kelsea will drop a few more touchstones for all of you who wish to participate in this ritual from the live stream, and all of those touchstones that remain on our hearts and in our minds.
I'm Chris Cleveland, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm going to help you to do some Tai Chi today. If you wish to participate, you can participate in your seat or in the aisles or any way you wish, or just watch. Tai Chi, in this time of tumultuous conflict and so many uncertainties, something like Tai Chi can help bring you some peace of mind and bring you to the present and help you to get away from the constant turmoil that our lives seem to be in these days. So you can just move gently and try to breathe deeply as you do this. So go ahead and move where you want to be.
This month's special plate collection will go to the Metapeace team to support trainings in bystander intervention. Skills of active nonviolence are taught to de-escalate tensions before they become violent. And I can give a first-hand encounter with the Metapeace team as they volunteered their services at the Trans Day of Visibility rally that we had at the Capitol not too long ago. They were really a great addition to help make sure everyone was safe and just provide that extra support. You may donate, as the ushers will be around with our baskets. If you look behind the chairs, there should be envelopes. You can designate your gift to UU Lansing, and all undesignated gifts will go to the Metapeace team. Or as you can see, there is a QR code, or you can go to the website and find ways to give there. Thank you.
Did anybody have a chance to spot some spring ephemerals this year? Those fleeting plants, sometimes flowers, that are the first vegetation to come out in the spring, often in the understory of the forest, before the leaves have created a canopy that prevents sunlight from coming in. Those spring ephemerals don't last very long, so you gotta catch them while they're there. I can remember these sweet blue flowers that bloomed under the caragana trees and on the farmyard as a child, going out to find, I think maybe we called them bluebells. Sort of had a fuzzy, furry texture to these tiny, delicate bells, and they were only there for a few moments. Spring ephemerals, I don't know, don't you love the word ephemeral? There's just something about the word, it's just like, ephemeral. Yeah, it's a nice word. Spring ephemerals are plants that appear briefly each spring, usually before most other vegetation has awoken. Maybe some of our spots have spring ephemerals. I was trying to figure out how to connect Flower Communion to Pride Month. And I figured out a way from a book that was just recently published. It's called Forest Euphoria, The Abounding Queerness of Nature by mycologist Patricia Ananawu Kashian. And she happens to have a chapter about spring ephemerals. How brilliant! And she writes that one of her favorite spring ephemerals is the Jack in the Pulpit. Now, Cruz is going to show you a picture, I know, of Jack in the pulpit. Sometimes they're called jackies. Jackies love shade and grow scattered around the forest floor. And when they appear in late April or early May, it helps the author trust that the winter is truly gone for the year. Sometimes they're a foot tall, but I'm told that they can reach as tall as 4 feet. What's most notable about jackies, however, is their spathe, the part that forms around the flower. The spathe is a few inches long, fluted with a curled lip, sometimes green, but often they're in that enticingly deep maroon with the chartreuse strips, as you see in the picture. This is where the name Jack in the Pulpit comes from, as the spathe somewhat resembles a pulpit, and the spadix, a person standing within, proselytizing to the gall and fungus gnats lured to the flowers. Jackies are reproductively queer. When they begin developing, they are asexual. Next, they develop male flowers. As they continue to grow, they become monoecious, having both male and female structures. And eventually, at maturity, they transition to being entirely female. This is dichogamy, or sequential hermaphroditism, meaning they undergo sexual transitions throughout their life. These transitions help the plant population maintain genetic diversity, which makes it more robust and resilient. Some people call the all-female version Jill in the Pulpit. And some, during the monoecious period, simply call them Jack and Jill in the pulpit. The author reminds us about ephemerality. See, ephemerality is often associated with queerness. And just before I continue, I wanted to share with you Bell Hooks, who's a feminist philosopher, recently passed away. Bell Hooks talks about queerness as follows. She writes that queer, not as being about who you're having sex with, that can be a dimension of it, but queer as being about the self that is at odds with everything around it, and that has to invent and create and find a place to speak and to thrive and to live. Ephemerality is often associated with queerness. For many of us, our identity shift over the course of a lifetime. As self-knowledge deepens and expands, we are reborn again and again, and so are our communities. I don't believe I know any queer person with a large gender-specific lifelong friend group. The 8 best girlfriends since middle school, the 6 guys who grew up together, I, at least, have always been alienated from these types of group dynamics. My ephemeral states of being didn't lend themselves to such bonds, and I molted repeatedly before finding connections that seemed like they would truly last. In a cultural sense, too, the past several hundred years of queer phobia have demanded that we stay nimble, light-footed. Whether it's cruising in a city park or hatching an underground nightclub, queer gatherings are often cryptic, word of mouth, and fleeting. This remains true even with growing acceptance in heteronormative culture. When queerness is perceived as cool, others will want a piece of the pie. What was edgy, provocative, and daring is co-opted, and so we get used to staying a few steps ahead and saying goodbye. Much like mushrooms or spring ephemerals, the most memorable and special queer spaces, I prize the memory of Dreamland, a series of Syracuse dance parties I attended in my mid-20s, are those that last only a couple sessions, months, or years, existing as glimmering moment in time before retreating out of sight, rearranging themselves and emerging elsewhere when the season is just right. Spring, ephemerals, ephemerality, and queerness, all coming together as we celebrate both Pride and Flower Communion. And these flowers, too, are ephemeral in the sense that you will take a beautiful flower home and eventually it will wilt and dry out or just become part of the landscape for the next flower. So indeed, our flowers, our community are ever evolving. But this ritual represents our diversity, our ephemerality, and our ever-changing community. And with that said, I'll invite you to all come forward this morning as Anne-Marie noodles on the piano. I asked her to play something flowery. So we're ready, Anne-Marie, for some flowery music as you come forward. What's that? If you would like to help pass them out, that would be lovely, or our folks can just come and take one, all right? And let's take a flower home with us, and then we'll sing. All right, come forward. As Reverend Chopik said on that first flower communion, these flowers are like ourselves, different colors and different shapes and different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but each beautiful, each important and special in its own way. May those flowers be a reminder of this community. And this wisteria and this honeysuckle will be heading into the memorial garden today or sometime in the near future. So we bless these plants as well this morning as they will continue to grow and remind us of all of those who came before us to create this beloved community that we all call home.
Norbert Chopik was a polymath involved in a lot of different activities besides just preaching. And one of those was writing hymns. So he wrote this text for Color and Fragrance. Obviously, we're using a translation. And it was set to a folk tune. So I invite you now to join in something that's really connected to our history as Unitarian Universalists. Please join together in singing Color and Fragrance.
Let's join together in our benediction as on the screen as a religious community inspired by awe and wonder. We nurture spiritual growth, connect in authentic, loving relationships, and engage in courageous work for peace and justice. Our worship is over. May our service begin.